Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the vlog. Today I'm actually tearing apart part of the dash of the truck. I'm trying to restore some of the lights on like the gauge cluster as well as the climate control. So let me show you guys so far where I'm at right now. Okay, so pretty simple. There was a trim around here, which is this guy. All I had to do was really just pull on this side of the trim and this side of the trim, and basically the whole thing just came out really easily. Once I did that, there were about 4 of these 7mm bolts, or I don't know what it is on standard size, but I was able to use a 7mm socket, and I was able to take out this guy, that guy, and then those 2 right there. So here are the bolts. Now I'm basically able to take out this gauge cluster and unplug the electrical connectors to basically start tearing apart this guy and replacing each bulb. The other extra 2 bolts that I have here, same size, same length, is for this as well. So currently what's going on is, when I turn the headlights on, or automatically when it turns on, these lights are completely burned out and there's supposed to be a light there. These still work, but I think they're kind of dim. And that's the same situation here. There's a couple that are burned out throughout like the gauge cluster, and there are some that are brighter than others. So I bought a whole LED kit that's basically just gonna switch the entire gauge cluster and climate control bulbs to white LEDs. So that's the process right now to kind of just get things going, is taking out those bolts. I already have these this side and this side taken out for the bolts. I just have to use a small flathead to kind of push the clips in together for that side, and same thing on this side, and this whole side comes out. So once that's done, pull the electrical connectors from this as well, bring everything inside, and basically start taking apart this face and replacing the bulbs. All right guys, so I'm at a point now where I took off the cover of the speedometer cluster. All it was is just really clips holding it. You could see here, so clip there, and clip there. By removing that, I took off the cover, and now I'm at a point where I need to push the needle noses down a little bit on all of them and put tape to kind of mark where the needle is. So once I do that, basically once I take the needle off and then put it back at some point, I remember where the placement was for it. The reason why I have to do that is because, when the truck turns off, this needle like dips down a bit, so you just basically want to have a placeholder of where it was before. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, tape them all where they are. We'll bring them down a little bit, tape them where they are, and then start pulling off these needles and pull off the black face as well. Alrighty, so I took off the needles, as you can see here, and I took off the faceplate as well. So I went ahead and did that just by, these are the guys that are holding the faceplate. So you kind of just have to pull a little bit on one side, and it'll allow one side to like lift up, and then you can kind of mess with the faceplate to pull it out of these prongs, you could say. The next thing would be to take off the plastic clear piece. Once I do that, then I have access to basically the bulbs that are into the board. So once I do that, then I can change to these LEDs. And I don't know if they have a reverse polarity. I would think they do, but if that's the case, I would just have to plug them all in, plug it into the truck real quick, turn it on, and see what lights up and what doesn't. So that'll be the next step. I'm gonna go ahead and take off this clear face. So actually, one more piece that I wanted to say is, once you get this clear piece off that I was showing you earlier, you want to go ahead and take off this white plastic piece. The way to do that is very simple. It's just these clips here. So there's all of them around on the back side too, but basically you just have to pop it off, and once that is done, then you have more clear access to these bulbs right here. Gonna show you guys how to remove that and then basically replace them with LEDs. My apologies, the video microphone got cut off here for some reason. I think it's when it got connected to my truck, and it wasn't picking up my voice. But anyways, what I'm trying to explain here in this video is I took off the faceplate of the cluster, and I'm showing you guys the exposed soldering points of where the bulb would be originally as I'm zooming in here. So the reason why I'm showing you this part of the clip is because there is a point with the LED that you don't know if it'll turn on with one direction plugged into the soldering point or not, or you have to flip it 180 degrees. So in order to do that, you have to plug the cluster into the truck, provide power to it, and basically the cluster should have power to where if you touch the prongs of the LED onto the soldering points and it turns on, then you're good. If it doesn't turn on, then you'll have to flip it 180 degrees, basically getting the right positive and negative onto the soldering points of those 4 dots. So that's what I'm trying to explain to you guys here in the original audio of the video. But that's how you'll verify what is positive and what is negative with the LED, and you're gonna have to use a Sharpie or some sort of marker indicating what is positive and what is negative. All right, so I went ahead and soldered all the LEDs onto the appropriate placement with the correct orientation. Again, thanks to the other guy's video that I was watching. It helped out a lot. It saved a lot of time as far as figuring out what was positive and negative. So you could see I took some brown Sharpie and just put a plus for positive on which ends needed to be soldered on. So all the LEDs are on there. I actually went ahead and tested this already, and all of them turn on, so it's really bright, which is nice. I also did, according to the guy's video, I did bend the LEDs a little bit inwards towards the servo motor, which would be like, for example, the transmission gauge, the fuel gauge, oil pressure gauge, and all that. The reason for that is because when you put the faceplate back on, I think if you have the LEDs straight up, it will make some of the words or the indications on the faceplate brighter than others. So having it bend a little bit might kind of even out that brightness. If there's some spots that are brighter than others, it's not really a big deal. I don't really care as long as all of the lights are working for each gauge. So I'm gonna go ahead and basically start putting the faceplate back on and doing everything in reverse that I did, and bring this back out there to turn it on and make sure everything looks good. Again, sorry for the audio cutting out, but this is how it looks when it's plugged in. Really bright, as you can see. Was able to figure out all the orientation of the bulbs, and it was made a huge difference as far as the brightness of these bulbs versus the original bulbs. So really happy with how it turned out, and now it's time to put the face back on the gauge. Okay, so I have the faceplate back on. Everything was relatively easy to put back on, but there was one thing that was actually pretty tedious, and I wanted to point that out to you guys. So all these tapes that I have here on the side was actually, if you guys remember from the beginning of the video, it was like a strip of electric tape marking where the needles were before I pulled it out. The thing is, when you plug the cluster back on to test the lights and you plug it back out, the servo motor needles move a little bit. So when you place it back, the needles, it's not going to be in the same spot. But there is like a starting point where you feel it wanting to stop, meaning like, let's say you put the needle back on and you spin it all the way one way, your starting point is going to be different from where it was before. So all you have to do at that point is take this needle out and then kind of just correct it to where the tape would be, or where you marked the tape originally, and then just slot it back in. So if you guys have more questions on that, feel free to comment down below and I can, answer your guys' questions. But that's the only part I would say is the most tedious, is just trying to make sure that your starting point is in fact where the tape was. Otherwise, it's gonna get thrown off. I'm pretty sure your starting point for like your all your gauges would be different if you didn't have the tape there, and it would just, all your readings would be wonky. So that's why it's very crucial to have that tape there to indicate where the starting point is. Otherwise, everything's back on. I'm gonna kind of clean this surface, make sure there's no dust while I put the glass or the plastic clear face back on. And once that's done, then I'm able to basically put this entire gauge cluster back into the truck and make sure all is good. Alrighty, everything's back on and installed. I didn't put this cover back on yet, but moment of truth, let's see. Wow, yeah, that looks good. Oh man, it's almost like a light blue tint. So the LEDs are white, as you guys saw in the last clip. I think it's probably the face, like the faceplate or the cover. Otherwise, I know for sure that the LEDs are white and they're not like a hint of blue or like a different color. They are for sure white. Honestly, you know, at different angles of this cluster, it looks really good with the end result color having that tint, kind of like a blue tint. I'm still able to adjust the brightness, which is nice with the LEDs. I can fully shut it off if I want to still. Just have to put the dial down all the way of the brightness. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how this came out. There are still some brighter spots than others on the cluster, as you can see where I'm pointing. Especially the transmission temperature gauge is a little brighter compared to like for example, the tachometer, like the number dials. Other than that, you know, it's a huge upgrade from what it was before, and I'm pretty proud of it. Where I'm pointing now is the climate control. I wasn't able to swap the bulbs, unfortunately, so what I'm going to be doing is probably just get a new one or get this shipped out to a guy I know that does LED upgrades. I just wasn't able to do that on my end for some reason, and same thing with the 4x4 lights. That one I'll be able to swap that on my own, but for some reason, yeah, I wasn't able to do that on the climate control. It was more complex than what I thought. Same thing with this switch with the headlights. There is a upgrade for LEDs that I'm probably gonna do, probably gonna get and replace those. But other than that, I am happy with how everything looks. Alright guys, well that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions on what I did or if I'm missing any sort of steps, please comment down below. I'll answer your guys' questions to the best of my ability. Otherwise, it's 100% worth it. I will link the products down below for what LED I went with, and the link for actually the original video that I use as a reference, but just to make my own version of it. It was really like a $15 to max $20 fix versus getting a whole different cluster that's, you know, roughly like a couple $100 depending on the condition. And, you know, it's good to learn like how each of these bulbs are, you know, soldered onto the board, and, you know, being able to choose any color you want. I just wanted to choose white LEDs because that's like the cleanest look in my opinion. But, you know, granted, the faceplate had like a blue tint to it, so it gave that a certain color, which I really didn't mind at all. But otherwise, guys, that is pretty much it. I'll catch you guys later, and I'll keep you guys updated as always. See ya.